Hello, beautiful beings. I wanted to hop on for a little impromptu live video. And I just wanted to hop on and relay some of my astral traveling experiences that happened just last night, actually. And you know what? This kind of stuff happens all the time in my life, but I just don't usually relay it because life is weird and stuff happens on a daily. But last night was really cool. I think a lot of you were actually with me on my little astral travel adventures. So I wanted to relay that experience. So I was going to bed and I couldn't get to sleep. I don't know if I was like anxious or just, I don't know, whatever. I couldn't get to sleep. Whenever I can't get to sleep, I always think it's a good idea to astral travel or remote view. And it's never a good idea because remote viewing and astral traveling always gets me so stimulated, right? It's like the worst thing you should do when trying to sleep. But anyway, that's what I did. So I wanted to get into a little bit more detail about my astral traveling experience and what it feels like at a visceral level. The more that you guys know about the typical or different sensations you can have while astral traveling, the more likely it is that you're going to have those kind of experiences. The more exposed we are to other people having experiences, the more likely it is that we're going to have those experiences too. So that's why I felt the need to share this. So I'm laying in bed horizontally, and I sit up out of my body. That's literally what I do to get out of my body and astral travel. So I have my eyes closed, I sit up out of my body, I can see the room around me, it's pretty dark, and I end up floating out of my house, and then I can see all of the forest and the lake and all of the, greenery and the things. It was nighttime, so it was dark around me, and it's weird, but one of the sensations that I feel, maybe that's just me, I don't know what other people feel when remote viewing and astral traveling, but I pick up on the air. Like, it's weird, it's bizarre, because when you're in an astral body, you're not actually in a physical body, so you would think that your senses are different, and they are. Like, even visually, when you're astral traveling, you don't see the room around you like this, right? It's not as physical, visceral, it's not as bright. It's kind of like, it's almost like blurry. It's almost like a dream. It's almost like you're imagining a Christmas tree, but you're actually astral traveling in front of a Christmas tree. Does that make sense? It's not the same. So I think when a lot of people go astral traveling and remote viewing, they have this assumption that it's going to feel the same as being in your body, and it doesn't. It feels very different. It's more lucid. It's not as physical, obviously, but it's just something to note. But one thing that other than just seeing what's around me, and like I said, I see what's around me when I'm remote viewing as a dream. It's all kind of first of all, it feels like I'm distant from it. I'm far away from it. And technically, it's probably because I'm just far away from my body. But once again, it's not as physical as this reality. It's still this reality, but perceiving it from a different frequency. So I can see what's around me, but like I said, it's blurry. Details are always very general. Like, if you asked me, and I'm sure this would just take practice, but if you asked me to close my eyes, remote view, and try and read a page of a book, it would be really, really difficult for me to do that. Back in the day, I was reading, what are they called? Playing cards, right? In my astral body, and that's how I sharpened that skill. But then I kind of gave up after a while because it was not something that I'm naturally good at. Everyone's different. I see and feel and sense a general kind of picture of the room and the forest and what have you. So anyway, but one thing that I tune into when I astral travel is the air. Like, it's very bizarre because I don't have lungs to breathe in my astral body. I don't have a brain to sense in my astral body in that way. But you pick up on the senses when you're astral traveling and remote viewing as you would in a dream. In a dream, emotions are real. In a dream, sensations are real. And they're not. They're not actually happening to your physical body, but they feel real. It's so bizarre. So last night when I was, I wanted to kind of float around my neighborhood, which is really just a bunch of trees and wildlife. And so I did that, and it was really nice. And I could feel, like, it was so interesting. I could feel the moisture in the air, and I could smell the oxygen and the pine from the trees. Like, the air last night was just so visceral for me in my astral body. I also remember remote viewing years ago. I was in an interview with Rex Bear and the Leak Project, and he's like, hey, can you remote view, you know, a military base in Antarctica? And I did, and I remember, like, the dampness of the military base and how, like, kind of cold and damp it was underground under this military base. But once again, the air was something that I really picked up on. It was just, it's so bizarre. So I'm traveling around my neighborhood, my location. I was wondering if there were any spirits that needed crossing over. So I was initially thinking indigenous spirits, or sometimes I visit grave sites, churches and graveyards, and I clear spirits who are stuck there, or I open portals. I didn't really pick up on any humans at first last night. I just picked up on animals. There was a lot of, like, animal spirits. Could be chipmunks, birds, bunnies, I mean, you name it. Mostly from natural death. And then, of course, there's unfortunately a lot of roadkill around here. So I was clearing animal spirits. And then I specifically asked to experience or to clear any indigenous spirits that were around here that needed to be cleared. So I actually was instantly drawn to go to a certain location, which was, I would say, drive time, probably 4 or 5 hours away from here. So it was like, you know, a decent drive away from my location. So there really wasn't a lot of indigenous activity back in the day in this location in particular, which I'm kind of surprised at, maybe a little bit saddened by as well, because I love having that frequency, although it can be dense. So then I went up there, like I went more north in Ontario, and I was clearing indigenous spirits. And then I got bored, I don't know, and then I'm like, okay, this is good, like, let's move on. Then, in my astral body last night, I was like, I wonder, it's so random and bizarre, but I'm like, I wonder if I can go visit the kind of like leaders, I don't know what else to call them, the leaders of the political parties in Canada. So specifically going to go visit Doug Ford, I believe his name is, or at least Ford, who's the guy who runs Toronto, I think. Like, I'm so out of politics, which is funny because that's what I studied in university. Anyway, so I went to go visit Ford in my astral body because I wanted to just clear his energy, because I'm like, you know what, how else can I give back, especially to Canada, especially to Ontario? And it wasn't just the indigenous clearing, it was also clearing Ford, and then of course I cleared, or tried to clear, Trudeau. So I went over to Ford, and dark energy, definitely some dark stuff going on, but a pretty simple clearing. And it was so funny because I stepped into a new light weapon last night too. And I don't know, maybe it's because I've been throwing knives recently and doing archery and stuff, but it almost looked like triangles, no, like diamond-shaped white light, and they're about this big, and like I said, diamond-shaped, like 2D diamond, not 3D diamond, and I'm like throwing, kind of like throwing ninja stars. I'm like throwing white light, you know, beams at Ford, at Doug Ford, and clearing his energy. And I did. I mean, I can't say that he's like completely cleared or whatever, but I was clearing it, and that was fine. And I was surprised. There wasn't any like protection around him. There was no defenses. There was no pushing back. It was just, he was darker, lower vibrational frequency, and then I was just hitting him with white light, which was great. And then I'm like, let's go see Trudeau, right? And it was funny too, because I recognized immediately when I wanted to go visit Trudeau, who, for those of you who don't know, is the president Prime Minister of Canada, I had to go a different location. Like it almost felt like I went to Toronto for Ford, and then I had to go further. I'm probably guessing Ottawa, but I just remember instantly, I'm like, let's go to Trudeau. And I like literally am just traveling right there. And that's what happens when you astral travel. So when you're out of your body and you think of like, let's go to the Pleiades, boom, instantly, it's almost like you teleport there. And there is a difference between actual travel in your astral body and remote viewing body and teleporting. And I've done both. Like sometimes I love traveling, takes a little bit longer, and sometimes I just teleport. Most of the time I do teleport if I want to get going on different places. So I go over to Trudeau, did not expect this at all. Heavy dark energy. I will just put it out. I'm gonna say it. I'm just gonna put it out there. Definitely reptilian vibes, 100%. And not only definitely reptilian vibes, but it literally felt like the whole family lineage was reptilian. Like it felt like one of those royal reptilian lineages. It was actually Trudeau, which is just very interesting because on the surface he seems like, oh, he's a Canadian, he's into like diversity rights, and he's, you know, on the surface like, he's a good looking guy. Like people always comment about his looks and his youth, and it's just funny how twisted, you know, that really is. Anyway, so literally Trudeau, so dark, like and not only that, but had all of these guards around him. And so instantly when I enter into the energy sphere of Trudeau, I'm getting attacked. Like I'm like, oh shit, this was supposed to be a casual like astral travel experience. This was not supposed to be a full-on battle. So I instantly call in my troop. I have like a core group of about, I want to say like 6 to 8 like light worker souls that come with me, and I can call upon them instantly, and they're there and they fight by my side. And then that wasn't enough. Like literally that wasn't enough, because it wasn't just Trudeau. It was like all of these beings, basically guards around him. He was like heavily protected. I'm not surprised. I was definitely pretty naive thinking that I wasn't going to be met with resistance. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I also didn't have the plan on freaking going to visit Trudeau, right? Anyway, so then I had to call in like all of you. I basically like put it out there last night and I said, all right, guys, are you ready for battle? Like, let's go. Come on in. And instantly like hundreds of you started popping in, and like that's what it was, like teleporting in your white light bodies, all different kind of shapes and sizes, but all in general just general white light forms. And you all brought your light weapons. It was weird because when I was battling, my body was feeling, sometimes it was feeling really hot, sometimes it was feeling really cold, sometimes it was feeling tingly, and at one point my hands were hurting, and I'm like, I don't know if my hands are hurting because of the battle that we're in or because of the white light weapons that I'm using, because it was a new weapon. So I was gonna actually just put it out there to say I was getting really weird, like physical random like pains and shit that was happening during battle last night, and I wanted to put it out there. If you had weird sleeps, weird dreams, and I'm maybe you got attacked last night. So here's what happened. So like it just turned in from 0 to 160 into a full-on battle, like us and these dark entities and reptilian beings and like Trudeau's whole lineage, and the beings that he's tied to. And it was funny too because Trudeau has children, and the children were like in the house too, and I guess the wife too was there. And I did not feel like, I actually felt starseed vibes from the children. And so I also felt good in that moment about, like, I don't know, I felt kind of intrusive. And then when I felt that his kids were actually starseeds, I'm like, you know what? We're saving his kids from potentially going into this lineage. Anyway, I don't know. Just a side note. So we were all battling. Like I was throwing all of my freaking white light, like little ninja stars. Such a cool, like new light weapon that I didn't realize I had. And then what happened? And then it got really intense, and honestly, like, I don't want to say that we lost, and I don't want to say that we won, but basically I called us all off. Like, I like retreated. I'm like, you know what, guys? Maybe we're pushing the timelines. Like, maybe this isn't supposed to happen, because we were met with such resistance. And like, I pulled back, and I pulled all of us back. We all just kind of pulled back. And then we ended up getting followed. No surprise, because when you are in a battle in the astral realm, they will follow you. And this is part of the problem when we have cords, grounding cords connecting our astral body to our physical body. It's great that we have grounding cords, but then it can also be detrimental because they can be followed. So then it was so cool. We all came together as this giant like orb of white light. Like you could imagine, like a couple hundred of us, like maybe 300 or 400, all huddling together. And we teleported together out of that scene, like out of that location. And we teleported like above Earth. And then I basically like had this awareness of like, we probably shouldn't teleport together because they're all going to follow us here. And I also had the simultaneous thought of, if they're all following us here, can we sneak back and like transmute him into white light? And then I'm like, no, I'm going to leave it for now. And so then I basically said, hey guys, like let's all disperse. And that's what we did. And it was actually such a cool visual to see all of these little orbs of white light, like all of these astral bodies of white light together as one group, and then we all dispersed, and it was like these like, yeah, just like little balls of white light all kind of going in different directions. It was just a very cool visual. And then I had to pop in and out of all these different like places because I was being followed, and that's what basically jumping helps you with, is basically not being followed. So I do apologize if some of you had a rough night last night or a rough sleep last night, because you were probably a part of that group and you might have gotten psychically attacked if you didn't get away appropriately, if that makes sense. All you need to do for today and for tonight is to surround yourself, your family, your loved ones, your home into a white light bubble. And it's also a bubble of invisibility. And just know that no other being can kind of enter into that bubble. Just for tonight, if you did get a rough sleep last night. Then I was bored again. And I'm like, that wasn't enough. Clearing animal spirits wasn't enough. Traveling around my neighborhood wasn't enough. Speaking to indigenous tribes and clearing them wasn't enough. Going to graveyards wasn't enough. And apparently trying to clear Ford and Trudeau wasn't enough. So I'm like, let's just go over to the GFL and see what's going on with them. So that's what I did last night. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. And so I went over there, and I was immediately going to go over to the Palladian Security Council, and then I didn't, because I'm like, you know what? I always go to them. Let's switch it up. So what was it? Did I ask a question? Yes, I did. Yeah, I said, who do I need to connect with today? And this rhinoceros being steps in, and I'm so curious, because I have connected with the rhino beings maybe a handful of times, like maybe 2 or 3 times. They're bizarre. I mean, not bizarre. I don't want to be offensive, but they look like humanoid rhino beings. Like they look like large, probably around 7, maybe 8 feet tall, very like bulky. Their skin looks like rhino skin or like elephant skin. It's gray, very textured. It's like you would want to touch it. And very humanoid, so they've got 2 arms, 2 legs, abdomen, but their head looks like a rhinoceros head. And they've got like a snout coming out and horns. Typically I see 2 horns, but sometimes they have 1 horn. And it's funny because a couple months ago there was a rhino being that came through, but so briefly that that I don't think I got a name for him. Maybe I did. I don't know. I couldn't figure out if this was the same one or a different guy. Anyway, so this rhino being comes into my focus, right? I'm just popping into the GFL mothership. And I'm like, oh, hey, like, who are you? Because I didn't recognize him. And the first thing I commented on was his glasses, right? It was so odd, but like he's got glasses, like these like, it's just weird seeing like a humanoid rhinoceros being wearing glasses. And I asked him, I said, why are you wearing glasses? Like, that was like my first question. I'm like, what are you doing wearing glasses? And I said, don't you have like technology to fix your eyesight, or like, I don't know, it's just bizarre. And he said, we do, but I just prefer them. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so he said, do you recognize me? And I said, I don't recognize your form, but I do recognize your soul. Who are you? And immediately he throws me back to a past lifetime, a long time ago, but it's one of my most precious past lives, where I was a tall gray being named Hera, and I was the ambassador of the Greys, and I worked in tandem alongside the GFL. When I go over there, a lot of beings recognize me as the reincarnation of Hera. Okay, so anyway, so he said, oh yeah, I was a colleague of yours, of Hera's, right, of yours as this ambassador, and he instantly showed me his gray self, and I instantly recognized him. And it's funny to like recognize the actual physical features of a gray being, because for us humans, we look at them and they truly all look the same. But when you are a gray, you can distinguish very slight differences between each of the grays. Not only that, but they are very telepathic and can feel soul signatures. But anyway, he showed me himself as a gray, and I'm like, oh my God. I called him William. Oh my God, William, it's so nice seeing you. Like, it's so nice to connect with you and like have you back. So I recognized him. And then we like started talking about the concept of superposition, because I'm like, I don't know, we were just talking about the fact that it's really cool how him and I could connect as Hera, and I don't know, maybe his gray name was William, but then also simultaneously connect as Elizabeth and his rhino self, and we just kind of got into like a little bit of a spiral on superposition. And then I was asking him about myself. I said, I very rarely ask my spirit guides or interdimensional beings about me and my own progression. And he went on. I literally don't remember any of that now, but it was all pretty good things, I guess. Oh yeah. Yes, this is what he said. Okay. And then after we talked about me, we went into the planet. What's going on with the planet right now? What does humanity need to know? And they were actually correlated. So he said, but he was very, very evasive or coy with it, because he wasn't very specific. And I also didn't feel like pressing him for more information. Kind of one of those. It's like, I know that that's all I'm going to get, so I'm not going to press anymore. But here's what he said. He said that like, my energy is a lot more relaxed than it used to be. Like before, I used to be very anxious, because I felt like humans weren't where they needed to be. So I felt very anxious all the time. Now I feel much more relaxed because we're all together now, and it feels like there's more of us, and that feels much better for me. So he's talking about that, and he said that there's a wave coming. Verbatim, that is the word that he used. There is a wave coming. And I definitely don't think it's a physical wave. I think that it's a metaphor. It's a metaphorical word and imagery. He said that there is a giant wave that's coming to the planet soon. I don't know how soon, like timeline-wise. I don't know if this is in the next couple of years or it's in like the next couple of months. It almost felt to me like it was in the next couple months. Like it almost felt like August, September. That's what I felt, but he definitely wasn't clear about it. So this is what he said. He said there's a wave that's coming, that's hitting the planet, that is going to basically force people, humanity, to open themselves up so that they could understand the content that comes through me, which isn't my content, but it was this message of more and more people are going to wake up through this wave and are going to be ready to hear the information, like the truth, right? It's not my information. Everyone has access to it, but the wave is going to open people up. It's an awakening wave. Maybe it's a Schumann resonance. Maybe it is a solar flare. Maybe it is just some sort of electromagnetic pulse, you know what I mean? Like a cosmic wave of energy. I kind of felt that way, but Literally, he would not tell me anything more other than wave. Right after all of this experience, usually I just go to bed. 9 times out of 10, I will astral travel. I'll do all of those things, and then I'll just pass out. And then I don't remember anything that I did the night before. I'm like, I for sure went to the GFL. I don't know what happened. I for sure astral traveled around. I don't know what happened. Anyway, so I made it a point of like actually making notes right after it all happened. I wrote down all of it, Trudeau part, the battle, going over to the GFL, the wave. And one part that I wrote, and I wasn't gonna say this, but I'm going to say it because it's just something that I felt. William, the rhino being, did not tell me that this was gonna happen, but I felt this way. Okay, so really grain of salt. All right, grain of salt. I felt like when this wave happens and it awakens and expands people, I had this kind of feeling that a lot of people were potentially going to die as well. Like it just felt like the split in the road kind of thing. Like it felt like old earth, new earth. I don't know. I wrote it down, but once again, he did not tell me that. There was no signs that this wave was going to create that. And maybe it is like an ego death. Maybe it's the fact that people need to have an ego death in order to ascend to a new vibration, which is absolutely the truth, right? Absolutely the fact. So I think that was about it. That was it. That was just, a couple things that happened last night. But really, guys, I mean, this is not an abnormal experience for me. This stuff happens all the time. And I guarantee that this stuff happens to all of you all the time as well. You're just not as tuned into it. Oh yeah, okay, one more thing. When I was talking to William on the GFL mothership, I had an experience that was so, it was a bizarre experience for me because I'd never felt this way. And I had to come back into my body because it was so intense. Yeah, I want to explain it. When I was up there, okay, on the mothership, talking to William, getting all this information about the wave, I started feeling like I was really high up. I started feeling like it literally felt like I was standing, my physical body was standing on the edge of a cliff, and I was about to fall over. And it's funny too because I don't know, it felt like it wasn't necessarily like a falling feeling. It just felt like a high feeling. Like I was so high, I was so away from my body. It felt like sometimes when I'm on a plane, it feels the same way, like I'm too high from the ground. Now, I astral travel and remote view all the time, and I never ever feel afraid of heights. That's what it felt like. It felt like I was like rock climbing or climbing a mountain, and I couldn't look down. Like it felt like I was afraid of heights, and it was so bizarre. And I'm almost thinking, and this is just kind of like me spewing out my mind thoughts, but I'm almost thinking that I felt that way because right now at this time, doing things in the astral, I believe, are creating a much deeper visceral experience. And that's pretty much my main reason for actually hopping on this video and talking about remote viewing and astral traveling, because we're all getting much more sensitive to the energetic realms, and all we need to do is link our cognitive ability to observe with our soul's ability to travel, right? Because that's it. Like your soul is traveling. You're probably out of your body right now as we're talking, all right? It happens all the time. It's not how to astral travel. It's how to link your physical body and your cognition with your astral body. It is being aware of when you do it, not being aware of how to do it. If I told you, I'm going to teach you how to walk, and you're like, but I walk every day, it's going to create this energy of, I don't know how to walk properly. If I told you, I'm going to teach you how to astral travel, you'd be like, but my soul's doing it all the time, so maybe I don't know how to astral travel. We need to get aligned to the fact that we astral travel all the time. We are telepathic all the time. It is not how to do these things. It is being aware of when you are doing these things. The only thing that you need to focus on in order to do these things and in order to tap in to when you do these things is getting rid of distraction. That's it. That's it. That's why it's so much easier to do these things and remember when you do these things when you are sleeping, or when you're bored, or when you're stuck in traffic, or when you're having a conversation with your grandparents, or what have you. All right? You're doing them all the time. You are telepathic, you are psychic, you are clairvoyant, you astral travel and remote view all the time. Be aware of your bodily sensations. Be aware of feeling ungrounded. Be aware of being dizzy. Be aware of getting headaches. Be aware of aches and pains in your body. When we get too far out of our body, our physical selves will tell us, whoa, 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 step back in. There are consequences for going out and staying out for too long. And each one of you has your own indicators of what that looks and feels like. So stop distracting and just pay attention. That's it. Just listen up. Other than that, hopefully this story helps you. That was my night last night. I think there was quite a few of you who were there with me. So I'm going to post this video to YouTube. And yeah, be sure to hop over to YouTube and subscribe and check out some of my videos that have been posted recently, because there are some really fantastic downloads in there. And other than that, I will see you all in the 5th dimension frequency. Bye for now.